Much like glitter itself, the conspiracies about it are everywhere. What is glitter? What is so special about it? And why are there so many secrets around it? Follow me down the rabbit hole to find out. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the rabbit hole. I'm your host, Danny, and today we are talking about glitter. But before we get into it, I want to thank Rob and Noah for this suggestion. This conspiracy has been all over the internet, and I found out so much information about glitter that I did not know. So thank you. But of course, I love to thank our sponsors. So thank you, Wise Wolf Gold, for sponsoring both of my podcasts. Guys, if you want gold and silver delivered straight to your home, to your front door, go to rabbithole.gold. It's as simple as a couple clicks of your mouse, $50 a month, and you get gold delivered, which is really nice because with such a low subscription, you can start to build up your gold stash kind of over time. You don't have to do it all at once. And a lot of us don't have the money to just like go out and buy gold. And a lot of gold companies won't just sell you $50 worth. So thank you, Wise Wolf. We appreciate the sponsorship. Humans have been making things glittery, shimmery, shiny as far back as the cave paintings in the Upper Paleolithic period. They were using flecks of red, black, and white mica, which is like this type of shiny rock that we still sometimes use today. The Mayans also used mica on the surfaces of their temples, which is very common, but they only used it for special occasions. Ancient Egyptians used crushed up beetles to make things glittery, and actually Cleopatra is really known for doing this. Other people also did it, but she's probably the most popular, this crushed up beetle idea. And even people in the Americas, as close as 8,000 years ago, were using powdered galena, which is a form of lead, to produce a bright grayish-white glittering paint. And this paint was used on objects of adornment, so basically like accessories. The surface mining of galena was prevalent in the upper Mississippi Valley by the Cahokia natives. They actually used to trade for different things, and they would also wear themselves. The word glitter comes from the Norse word glittra, which is the verb, which means the exact same thing as glitter means when it's used in a verb form. It also has roots in Middle English word glitterin. But the first known use of the word glitter was in the 14th century. If you are like me and are wondering why humans are always like drawn to sparkly things, why we've always liked sparkly things, I looked it up because I was like, what the heck? Why does everybody want things glittery? And even now, we're obsessed with glittery things. And even some guys will be like, oh, not us. No, you are too. We'll get into that in a little while. But some research psychologists have found that our attraction to things that sparkle is derived from our innate need to seek out fresh water. Water sparkles in sunlight. But did you know that something like 80% of all of our glitter is produced in 2 factories, both of which are in New Jersey? Yeah, I didn't know that either. The inventor of what we know as glitter today was Henry Rushman. So he was born in Frankfurt, Germany, and came to the U.S. in 1926. He came by boat to New York, where he was hired right on the pier as a machinist by Westinghouse Company, based in Irvington, New Jersey. So the captain of the ship he came over on actually recognized his skills as a machinist and wrote a letter of recommendation, which is why he got that job right away. In the late 1930s, he had partnered with a man named Harry Goetz, and they started Goetz and Rushman. They were precision cutters of paper and film and developers and printers of photographic film for Kodak and Ansco. He invented and patented a high-speed machine that cut apart the developed glossy photo prints in roll form that consumers snapped with their Kodak cameras, and the cutting inscribed a grooved edge for the consumer to tear photos from the small booklet into which the prints were clipped. Every now and then, his machine would stutter, which would cause it to generate small pieces of glossy cellulose. The employees had this idea to take this schnibbles, which is what they called it, home and use them as snow in their Christmas decorations. It's a good use of them. It was like the first use of glitter. During World War II, glass glitter became unavailable. Actually, a lot of things became unavailable. There's a lot of shortages. And this was great news for Rushman, who found a place in the market for scrap plastics, which were ground into glitter. So he's now like limiting his waste by reusing his waste and reselling it, which Rockefeller also did. According to his obituary, he worked on the Manhattan Project during World War II. You know, the development of the atomic bomb. So Goetz and Rushman had government contracts to cut washers out of mica and cut metallized cellulose acetate roll film from which sequins had been punched. So they needed to do both things. So Rushman actually invented a machine to reduce the sequin scrap into 1 millimeter square glitter schnibbles, excuse me. So he was like, I'm making these sequins, but I'm going to go ahead and use the scrap instantly and turn it directly into glitter. He was making, like I said, these washers out of mica for the Manhattan Project. And with these washers, they would actually put the plutonium rod through the washer and touch it up against the uranium and then put dynamite on top, and it would cause this nuclear reaction. When he was drilling the mica, flakes of like this mica, which has been used forever as glitter, kind of fell off. And that's actually the glitter that the employees were taking home as snow. This was actually starting to become pretty profitable for the pair. So in 1943, Rushman bought Meadowbrook Farm in Bernardsville, New Jersey. That's where he founded Meadowbrook Farm Inventions in 1948. They were producing about 80 pounds of glitter a day by that point. Before being bought, the farm was home to one of America's first Guernsey cow breeders and had the oldest accredited herd in the United States. And he actually bought the farm to raise cattle and do machine work as well, but mostly to raise cattle. Like the glitter was just to help pay for the operating expenses of the farm, which produced milk and they continued to raise like purebred steer. MFI became Meadowbrook Inventions Incorporated in 1953. The glitter production started in the playroom of the house, and as they expanded, they moved operations to the green room, but they just kept building on, or the greenhouse, excuse me. They just kept building on as the company grew bigger and bigger. They added more buildings, or added on to a building to make the buildings fit the operation. In the early 1950s, he filed for 2 patents that were essential to the operation. The first was how to clip the strips, and the second was how to cut the strips. And they had other patents as well. These are the 2 most important. The cutting machine was like his bread and butter. That's how the whole thing started. And actually, they were precision cutters, which is why the Manhattan Project sought them out. Because their whole gig was precision cutting. Whew, that was hard. At first, they were cutting the glitter into square shapes, but they actually found that hexagons were more pleasing to the eye and produced less scrap. So they switched to hexagon glitter. If you're curious about that, I thought it was a fun fact. In the 1960s, Rushman's son joined the company, and he instituted quality control, making sure of uniformity from batch to batch. They also started averaging like 2.5 tons of glitter per day in the 60s, which made me start to think like, what's happening in the 60s that they need all this glitter? The space race. A little foreshadowing for you there. And by the 1970s, it was about 5 tons a day. Like, why do they need so much glitter? Maybe because glitter had been introduced, like they decided to start using it more. People were using it more, and so they were using it more. I don't know. Anyway, he was known as the glitter guy for most of his life and died on December 7th, 1989 at the age of 84. Don't think it's lost on me that he died on the anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and he also worked with the Manhattan Project. Interesting. Convenient. Glitter is still being made at the Meadowbrook Farm, but there's only one other company that makes glitter, and that's GlitterX. So GlitterX was founded in 1963. And isn't it interesting that Rushman felt the need to hurry up and patent the machine that cut the glitter just the following year after GlitterX was founded? Babu Shetty, who became the president and CEO of GlitterX in 1999, had been working on glitter products since the 1970s. His PhD is in polymer science and engineering, so plastic just made a lot of sense for him. But it kind of begs the question, like, what is glitter? I think that's one of the questions everybody asks. I know I always just assumed it was like metal flakes. I'm not completely wrong, but that's what I always assumed. However, according to the AI that gives me a summary from the articles that like populate during a search, it is an assortment of flat, small, reflective particles that reflect light at different angles, causing the surface to sparkle or shimmer. That's not accurate. That's just what AI told me. It is technically aluminum metallized polyethylene terephthalate. Terephthalate. Wow, that's hard. That's a hard word to say. It's plastic that's been metallized. So glitter starts as a plastic film, and then aluminum is deposited on both sides of the film. This is done by evaporating aluminum and then depositing it. In an interview with a reporter from the New York Times, Babu Shetty said, quote, "It's a very, very thin layer," talking about the aluminum. "They put it in a vacuum chamber, then evaporate the aluminum with heat," his son added, because he was also in the interview. The reporter then asked, "What are they evaporating out of it?" "Aluminum." So they evaporate aluminum from aluminum in a vacuum chamber, then deposit it into a plastic film to create glitter, like on either side of the plastic film. But then they have to add the color. So they add color with iridescent film thickness. So they layer the films according to the wavelengths of each color, depending on which color you want, because each color has its own different wavelength. And you can even, or they can even go into the UV spectrum if they want to, which is interesting. The secrecy around the glitter is also a concern. It's one of those things that kind of sparked this controversy to begin with, because why is glitter so secret? So the same New York Times article that it sparked this conspiracy to kind of like blow up, they reached out to Meadowbrook and to GlitterX. Meadowbrook didn't want to speak to anybody. Anybody that's calling about glitter, they don't want anything to do with it. Don't talk to them about it. Don't visit. The only people they will talk to is if you want to buy glitter from them, then they will sell you glitter. That's all. Shetty, the CEO of GlitterX, was more open to talking, but he wasn't going to give away all his secrets. So he told the reporter, Katie Weaver, from the New York Times, that people have no idea how scientific glitter is. So glitter making technology is actually one of the most advanced in the world. He told the reporter that he would not allow her to see or even hear how the glitter is made. And he wouldn't even allow her to be in the same wing of the building while the glitter is being made. So like if the glitter is being made over here on the west wing, she needs to be on the east wing. Or not in the building at all. She got a tour-ish of the building, and she got to see like all the different types of glitter and kind of like where it's packaged, but she didn't actually get to see where it's made because that's a huge no-no. He wouldn't even give the names of the clients in which they sell glitter to, and he actually requires that every client signs like a contract saying that they won't disclose anything about the glitter. And this is where people kind of started to get weirded out as well. So like, it's just glitter. What is so special or secretive about glitter? It's literally in everything. And honestly, if there wasn't so much like secretive, like hush-hushness, nobody would even pay attention at all. Nobody would even care. But because there's a secret, now everyone's like freaking out. Glitter is used in basically everything. I mean, the finest cosmetic glitter is used in lip products, and there's other glitters in other products, cosmetic products. But anything that's shiny, has glitter. So credit cards, paint, like cars and boats and things like that. Cosmetics, Christmas ornaments. Zookeepers and researchers even put it in animals' food to like track the animals. It's been put in plywood layers by manufacturers to prevent counterfeiting, and it can serve as useful crime scene evidence, as stated by the FBI. But it's used in inks, fiberglass, fishing lures, plastics, floorings, ceilings, countertops, tile, wallpaper, clothing, toys, packaging, church steeples. It's used in everything. The secrecy was said to be because some companies don't want other companies to know what kind of glitter they're using, like what the color of the glitter, what the fineness of the glitter. Like they didn't want any of that disclosed to a competitor. Fine, that makes sense. But not to disclose any competitors or any clients at all? That's interesting. I mean, they go as far as to not even disclose the industry that serves as their biggest market. Not even the industry. The industry is so big. If you say like the food and beverage industry, is that Pepsi? They're putting glitter in my Pepsi? No, it could be anybody, right? Because like you think, like it wouldn't really matter. Because if you say the cosmetic industry, that doesn't tell us who or like what they're putting in their cosmetics. It just means like we all know that there's shiny things in cosmetics. We get that. We all buy glittery cosmetics most of the time. But if you say the Department of Defense, that brings up a whole new can of worms. Maybe that's why they don't answer the question. So I keep kind of bringing it back to this New York Times article because that is kind of the thing that sparked this conspiracy. Before the New York Times article came out, there wasn't a whole lot of information about the glitter industry. Not very many people even cared. But then there was potentially a glitter shortage in 2018, and that's what sparked Katie Weaver to do a article into glitter. Like what's going on with the glitter industry? Who makes the glitter and why is there a shortage of it, right? I think that's the main question when there's a shortage of anything. So I went to that article, obviously, to get as much information about the initial conspiracy as I possibly could. I got a lot of really good information. But I learned that there have been a couple times that there has been a glitter shortage. Of course, the first time was in 2018 when the New York Times article was first published. This article brought up a lot of questions about the glitter industry. In 2020, there were claims of another glitter shortage, although these were never officially confirmed. And by 2023, the situation seemed to have balanced itself out, whatever that means. But also, this is kind of when it blew up on social media, TikTok particularly, but it was also a little bit on Instagram. What sparked more curiosity was the conversation between Katie Weaver and the manager of customer service at GlitterX, Lauren Dyer. So when Weaver asked what the biggest industry buyer is, she said, like, can you tell me what your biggest buyer is? Dyer says, no, I absolutely know that I can't. Okay, but you know what it is? Dyer says, oh God, yes, and you would never guess it. Let's just leave it at that. So then Weaver asks, why can't you tell me? Because they don't want anyone to know that it is glitter. If I looked at it, I wouldn't know it was glitter, asks Weaver. No, not really, said Dyer. Would I be able to see the glitter? Oh, you'd be able to see something, but yeah, I can't. Then Dyer did kind of point Weaver towards the automotive grade pigments, but that doesn't mean that she's pointing towards the industry. I mean, anybody could use automotive grade pigments in anything. I mean, like I could go and buy automotive grade pigment right now. That doesn't mean that I'm in the automotive industry. It just means that's the kind that I want for whatever project. That could be useful in a number of things because it's pretty fine for, automotive grade is pretty fine glitter. So what does that mean? Who are they and what is it that is glitter that they don't want the world to know? So of course, people took to the internet to tell the world who buys the most glitter, and everybody's like found the secret, right? Like everyone's like, oh, I know who it is. I don't know if anybody's right, but everyone says it. So some people believe it's the food and beverage industry. And at first, I kind of thought this as well. I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe. Like they don't want you to know that it's glitter. Maybe like they don't want you to know that glitter is in something that you're eating, that you're consuming, that like maybe I mean they have edible glitter now, and glitter like even non-edible glitter won't kill you unless you eat a lot of it. It's not great for you. It's like microplastics, but you know what I'm saying? Like they have some edible glitter now. But I don't think that's who it is. I don't think the food and beverage industry is the it that they're talking about, or the they that they're talking about. So then came along the boat paint theory. A lot of people thought that this theory was the reason for the shortage, the reason the it and the they, right? So this is actually the biggest theory on the internet for a while. And they obviously use glitter when painting boats. You can look at like a number of different speedboats and see glitter on these boats. And they drop a significant amount of glitter into the waters, which is a super hot topic right now because glitter is terrible for the environment. Microplastics. So not good, especially in an environmentally cautious world. Anyone that's ever been in the vicinity of glitter knows that it goes everywhere. So it's super hard to control. So anybody would be able to be like, yeah, glitter's not an easy thing to like contain and put together, let alone like now they're dropping it into bodies of water. So fish are probably eating it. It's never going to go away because it's microplastics. It's awful. So this is a hot topic. The painters of boats, this industry, they didn't really want to be the target of this conspiracy theory. Nobody really wants to be the target of a conspiracy theory. But they for sure were like, okay, it's not us. We didn't cause the shortage. Yes, we buy a lot of glitter, but like an average, like we've always bought this much glitter. Like we didn't buy more glitter. All of a sudden, we were just buying the same amount of glitter and there was just a glitter shortage. It wasn't us. But also, don't look over here while we're painting our boats and potentially getting glitter in the waters. So anyway, that's probably like the biggest part of that is that they may or may not be polluting the waters. I don't think that they're like, this isn't like the smoking gun. The people of the internet have decided that it is. And actually they have moved on from this now. They don't think that it's the smoking gun either. But it was like fun for a minute to think about the boats being painted. Other people have said that it's the toothpaste because there's glitter in our toothpaste, or money, not our money here in America, but money in other countries, ID cards, or the funeral industry that have caused this shortage. But it does seem like the military-industrial complex is the most likely source of these shortages. So way back at the beginning of glitter, beginning of the history of glitter, Rashomon had government contracts. Those eventually expired, but a couple decades later, they came back and they were like, hey man, you were a precision cutter for us before. You cut us these washers out of mica. We would love to have you cut more things or make more things for us with your precision cutting tools. Because that's what glitter is. It's just precision cutting. They're cutting it like sometimes really, really teeny tiny, sometimes a little bit bigger that you can like physically grab. I mean, in all different sizes and varieties. It's just precision cutting. So government comes back and they say, hey, we need you to cut particles, glitter, for products to include anti-radar chaff, slivers of zirconium to control the burn of solid rocket fuel, and iron fibers for airplane brake shoes. And actually, Rushomon's son, who worked for him, he got fired about 30 years ago, but he did do an interview and he gave away a few of their secrets. So for a while, they had an entire conveyor belt dedicated to the iron fibers for airplane brake shoes. And they might still have that. It's not 100% clear because nobody from the Meadowbrook Farms actually talked to anybody. They won't. This guy worked for Meadowbrook Farms, doesn't anymore, even though it's still his family business. He doesn't work there, so he gave an interview. Anyway, I was curious, as I'm sure you are too, what else is zirconium used for? Firstly, it's important to know that zirconium does not absorb neutrons. This is great for use in nuclear power stations or reactors, nuclear things. It's also superconductive at low temperatures and is used to make superconducting magnets. Zirconium is resistant to corrosion by acids, alkalis, and seawater, so it's great in the chemical industry. It has also been used in ultra strong ceramics, furnace linings, and foundry bricks. Now, that's not to say that the glitter companies are making slivers of zirconium for all these purposes, especially because in most cases, you don't need slivers. Like, you need very large quantities, especially like nuclear reactors. They use full, tubing as zirconium. They don't need slivers. They need lots of zirconium. This is just to give you an idea of, what it's used for potentially. But I want to go back to the UV range we learned about earlier. So, the owner of GlitterX showed Katie Weaver that they can make glitter on the UV spectrum, which the human eye can't observe. We could observe that there's something there. We can observe the color. And then this made my mind immediately jump to chemtrails. Meadowbrook had a government contract for anti-radar chaff, and this is actually a countermeasure used to confuse or jam enemy radar systems. Is that one of the substances they are putting in chemtrails now? Because according to Rushman's son, they packaged chaff in these round tubes, then they would shoot them out of the back of airplanes, and it would explode and create this cloud of fibers, and oncoming missiles would actually go toward the cloud of fibers instead of the plane. So are they putting that into the sky? Because these clouds they've been used to fake weather on radar systems. So they definitely mess with radars, and we've been seeing some weird radar things with our weather lately. So could this be one of those things they're putting in the sky? It could be a number of different things, but I immediately was like, they can make really teeny tiny glitter that we wouldn't even notice. We'd see it on the ground, but not if it's not the right color. They could put it in the chemtrails. Rashman's son also said that they did work with the Picatinny Arsenal, which is a military research manufacturing facility. And one of the projects for them was to make this battery. It's some sort of battery that actually produces a lot more electricity than what we can use now with anything that we have. But of course, the government, and they didn't get a lot of information. They just made whatever they needed to make for the battery because they weren't making the whole thing. But we know they work with the government and the military industrial complex. But what about the pharmaceutical industry? So we know that there are heavy metals or just regular metal. There are metals in some medications and in vaccinations. Are they adding these metals in glitter form? Very fine glitter. You know what I'm saying? Because then you might not see it. You see something like what the lady said, the manager from GlitterX. You'll see something, but you might not see the glitter. And they could make the glitter whatever color to match whatever color, ending color, the vaccine or medication would end up being. So you wouldn't even know that you're taking it. Is this where they're getting their heavy metals from? Is that how they're getting those into the medications? Granted, I'm no scientist. I don't know how they make medications or vaccinations. I don't understand all the ins and outs of it. But to me, I was like, well, how come that can't be the they? That they don't want you to know that it, being the medication, the vaccination, is glitter. It's not all glitter, but there's some glitter in it. But she said they don't want you to know that it's glitter, as in, the whole thing is glitter. She didn't specify that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. The last theory I have on this is that they could be making microtagants. So according to Microtrace, who makes these, microtagant identification particles have multiple levels of security within each particle. These microscopic particles contain multiple color layers, which translate to a numeric code. In addition to this base structure, we can add other materials to the microtagant to aid in location and authentication. Whether you're seeking a UV light, IR laser, or magnetic response, microtagant identification particles can help you create the response and extra security you want. There's a virtually unlimited number of unique numeric codes that can be created. These are used in plastics, bulk materials, including liquids, labels, standard polyester or nylon multi-filament security yarns, which I didn't even know was a thing. synthetic paper, and explosives. And I thought about this with the explosives thing, right? Because they could force every contractor, whoever makes explosives, to put a certain glitter in their explosives. That way, whenever it's used, there's evidence. It's kind of like what the FBI was saying about like there being crime scene evidence. Like glitter's a fantastic crime scene evidence because it sticks to everything. Same concept here. If there's glitter in the explosives, that explosive is used by country A on country B. We now know exactly who made that explosive and who sold it to country A. I guess we don't know for sure that it was sold by whoever to country A. It could have been like a black market deal. Doesn't matter. It's more traceable. And that's kind of what came to my mind. And that, when I started looking into it, I find those Microtagants and Microtrace, the company. So that might be something to look into a little bit more. But I think that it's really important to look at the timing of the shortage, right? Like what was going on at the time in 2018 is when I looked specifically. What was going on at that time to potentially warrant a glitter shortage? So there was ongoing conflict in Syria. And we were still in the Middle East at this point because we hadn't fully pulled out of Afghanistan. That was later. There was a trade dispute in 2018 with China because of the U.S. imposing tariffs on Chinese goods. Remember that Trump was in office at the time. So the same thing that he's trying to do now, he was doing then. Tariffs on these goods. That was potentially going to harm the glitter industry. I don't really know. But also, I mean, SpaceX was flying. So they had launched their maiden flight of the Falcon Heavy rocket. So maybe they were using glitter in that. That could have led to a shortage. But I was wondering if maybe they were gearing up for COVID. So like, I've been saying this over and over, right? Glitter gets on everything. Is this how they spread the virus in the years after the shortage, right? So they were buying a bunch of glitter in 2018. Stick with me here. I'm not crazy. They're buying a bunch of glitter in 2018, right? COVID gets on it. Glitter goes everywhere. It's easy to spread. It goes everywhere. It sticks to everything, right? Were they spreading COVID a little bit more using glitter in 2019, 2020? That sounds crazy, right? Of course, I sound crazy every single week. Potentially. There's so many possibilities. We still don't know who they are. We still don't know what it is that is actually glitter. And honestly, the internet's going crazy about it. People have not figured it out, and everybody wants to. Everybody wants to know. And I don't have the answers for you. I would love to hear what you think or who you think is behind this glitter shortage or what is going on with the glitter industry. Any information is awesome. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, none of it makes any sense. Before we get going, I have some announcements. I always save the announcements for the end, and I worry that not everybody listens to the very end. If you want to watch this video, go subscribe to my YouTube, subscribe to my Rumble. Here's the deal, guys. It's more likely going to be on Rumble every single week because I'm not going to censor myself to be on YouTube. I'm just not going to do it. So subscribe to my Rumble. Like, follow me. That way you can get the updates and you can get the videos if you want to watch a video option. If not, just keep listening wherever you're listening. Thank you for listening. I really, really appreciate it. If you want to be a patron and you want to get these episodes a week early and ad-free, go to Patreon, find the rabbit hole. That link is in the show notes, and it's $5 a month. Basically, you've bought yourself a cup of coffee, but you get every single week's episode a week early and ad-free. You get Cult Chronicles episode ad-free. You get an extra bonus opinions episode, and you get a free gift. And I have some really cool things coming for Patreon. So hang in there for my patrons. Guys, go join them because it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited for that. I think that's all my announcements. I'm sure I have more. Oh, merchandise. Guys, check out the merch store. We have some really cool new shirts. I'm really excited about them. I hope you guys are excited about them as well because they're really neat and I really like them. And I did a whole post on Instagram, but some of you aren't on Instagram, so go check that out. That link is also in the show notes. Leave me a rating and review because that does help more people find my podcast, which is how I keep coming back here every single week to keep giving you guys episodes. So until next week, my friends, that was a lot of announcements. Stay skeptical, and I will see you all then. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Danny Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Valaha, for our awesome intro.